Thank you for listening to this episode.
And follow the podcast on social media by finding @PrestigiouSPod. And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com.
Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media or on our website.
This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean. Today I'm joined by Steven Puri, the founder and CEO of the Sukha company, creator of a focused flow app called Sukha. Steven's career is anything but conventional, from software engineer to film to producing Academy Award-winning digital effects on movies like Independence Day. Later working as a senior executive at Fox and DreamWorks before launching Sukha to blend mindfulness, productivity, and community for remote workers. In the episode here today, Steven's going to share with us how he translated Hollywood's remote workflow into a tool that reduces distractions and builds happier workdays. So whether you're a remote professional, a creative, or somebody who's just looking to improve their focus, this conversation will be packed with inspiring strategies. Steven, welcome to the show.
Great. That was a great introduction. And yes, anyone driving right now and listening to this or at the gym or in their car, the reason to listen to this episode of the many great ones is that we're going to talk about some very specific ways to focus your mind, be intentional, especially if you're like an entrepreneur or doing a side hustle, if you have, something you're trying to create, and the ways in which you can sort of trick your mind into going to those places and using your time well. And, we'll have some fun anecdotes about the world of film because it's fun knowing, oh, that's how the writers of Transformers got into their flow state and stuff like that.
Okay, so flow being kind of the significant thing here. Yep. How do you define flow for the users of the app?
Okay, so I will say this. Anything smart I say in the next hour is because, as Newton would say, I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right? So flow, many of you out there are nodding your heads like, yeah, dude, I know what flow is. I've been in a flow state. Some of you are like, hey, catch me up. So I'm in, on the same footing as the rest of the class, right? So let's just define it in 20 seconds. A Hungarian-American psychologist, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, said, wow, there are these high performers that get in these concentrated states where they do the work that moves their career forward, moves the world forward. How do they do it? What's the state? After looking at athletes, artists, scientists, innovators, he decided to call this thing flow. The seminal book he wrote is called Flow. And he said, there is this state they get into. And I love this metaphor because flow implies this metaphor. He said, it's almost like these people know how to get into the river flow, where it's not just your own energy that is carrying you forward, but if you're correctly aligned, the river carries you even further, like magnifies your performance. And there are a lot of people who use different names for it. So if you hear Michael Jordan's quotes about being in the zone, where he's like, it's just me and the ball when I'm in the zone, you can call it whatever you want, but it is that state where time falls away, distractions are pushed away. You look up, you go, oh my God, I've done the thing. And it's sooner than I thought it would be. And I feel great. And that is ultimately my goal, is to make that available to people.
Okay. So, all right, I'll do a little bit of backstory with you here. You started as a newscaster, moved to VFX.
You've done your research.
a studio leader. Tell me, how does all of that lead you to build this productivity tech-focused tool?
Okay, my life, if it were made into a movie, would be sort of Forrest Gump-like. It is a series of lucky things that fell in my lap, and I'd like to believe coupled with me working really hard to make something of them. So it's not as handed anything. Both my parents were raised in abject poverty. There was no trust fund. There was no, hey, I went to Harvard, I'll get you in. They worked very hard to make sure I would not understand the kind of poverty that they experienced. However, yes, absolutely my life, I'm very cognizant of there have been times when it's like, oh, hey, this thing is available to you. And I would jump in and go, let me learn everything, work really hard, and make a good reputation, hopefully. So let me give you a couple examples that lead to your answer, which is my parents were both IBMers, engineers. Mom was a software engineer, dad was a hardware engineer. Your mom's like a great ice skater. You learn to ice skate when you're a little kid, right? It's just natural. So I learned to code. I was a little code monkey. I happened, as you mentioned, to have this opportunity to be on a TV show in DC on the Metro Media, the Fox station there. And it was a youth news show. The whole shtick of the show was, hey man, it's all high schoolers who are going to put on their own news show. So it was a really great way to meet people, because this is like pre, Facebook. So there wasn't really a way to connect with youth. So we got on the mayor of DC, we got all these people on who wanted to, show that they were somehow, they cared about kids, right? So that was a really inspiring thing for me to be like, oh, wow, USC recruited me to go to Los Angeles. Now, I'd been in DC at this point, came in out of the blue. USC said, oh, hey, we have a great journalism school if you want to come out here. And I'd won a Watson scholarship. So IBM said, hey, we'll pay you. Like, if you want a job, you can work, fund your college career. Sounded like a great option. Went to USC. As some of you may know, the University of Southern California has, if not the best, one of the best cinema TV schools in the world. So a bunch of my friends in the dorm were all aspiring Spielbergs and Lucases. So you end up talking a lot about movies. And then I was in LA when computers got powerful enough to digitize film. So I was in the very small Venn diagram intersection of I could speak engineer, but I also could speak creative. And that turned out to be a very lucrative thing when Avid was new, Pro Tools was new, computer generated effects were suddenly taking over. And as you mentioned, I ended up meeting Roland and Dean, went to do Independence Day with them when it was a shitty B movie at Fox. It was like, we're going to do this disaster movie these guys wrote. And it turned out to be the third highest grossing movie in history, right? Yes, you win an Academy Award, of which there are many people responsible for this. It takes a village, right, to do it. But you're part of that team and it benefits your career, period, right? Roland and I teamed up, started a company together to do digital effects. I raised about $15 million for that, which is not that hard when you have an Academy Award, 3 months ago, right? And built that company up and sold it. And then at a certain point, we got an offer. It was a great exit with his company, Das Werk. And, when you're in your 20s, you're invincible, you're good looking, you think you're smart, you think I was like, wow, this is really cool. So I had transitioned from being an engineer, software engineer, into being sort of a creative at this point, like running a company, making creative things. And then I set the next goal for myself was saying it was really interesting working with all these great directors on all these movies. How could I be the guy getting these movies made, like a chairman of a studio? Work my ass off, work my way up, as you know, executive vice president at DreamWorks for Kurtzman Orsi. We did the Transformers movies, Star Trek 11, Eagle Eye, a bunch of stuff. Vice president at Fox. I ran the Die Hard franchise, the Wolverine franchise for a while, and these are all rotating jobs. It's like before I was there, someone else is running Die Hard. After I left, someone else is running Die Hard. It's not like I am the guy, but it was fun for a while being the senior executive of the studio, being like, hey, Bruce, how should we do this one? Like, how do you want to do this? And had a moment, definitely around Die Hard 5, where I was like, okay, I don't really see that this is a great place to be when I'm 40 or 50 years old, being like, I'm going to make Die Hard 9. And, do we have an idea for it? No, but it makes money. I mean, you even look at the box office recently. It's just all sequels and remakes. We're doing a live action remake of the animated movie. There was a remake of the live action movie from the 40s. You know what I mean? So it pays the bills, and a couple of friends are still working in film. The number of jobs obviously has, been reduced, but I was like, how do I do something that's actually semi-meaningful? And I said, well, the other thing I know how to do other than film is engineering. Why don't I find some problems that have potentially engineering solutions and see if I can apply myself there? So I did a couple startups, 2 failed. It was humiliating for me because I thought, oh man, I'm really smart. I know what I'm doing. Man, that was hard. I felt shame. I felt embarrassed. I moved to New York, and happily out of moving to New York, I met my wife in yoga, which was super cool. Benefit of having a failed startup, got out of town and met someone new and having a baby this year. And in the course of doing the tech companies, the answer to your question now is I realized there were a lot of things that I learned at the circus that were like the mental tricks of the people who are making millions of dollars to write a script, tens of millions of dollars to direct a movie. And I was like, okay, so they get these flow state things. I had a friend who wanted to start a small company doing this. And I ended up launching this to say, hey, this is kind of magical. If you've ever experienced a flow state, you kind of know it's that turbocharge in your day. And there are conditions precedent that can help you with it. So I was like, here is something that I know how to do that I think we can people with. And that brings us to today. Oh, when I was really little, I liked, burgers. I don't know what I left out. Probably some stuff.
Well, okay. So there's a couple points here I want to pin down on. Luck is really interesting to me because as you were saying, basically you're in the right place at the right time. You happen to bump into the right people. These
Yeah.
things just show up.
Yeah.
So Carl Jung has a theory. It's called the theory of synchronicity, where essentially it can be summed up like if I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I'm thinking of my friend John, and I got to text
Mhm.
John later because of whatever, and then he shows up at the coffee shop. That is
Yes.
a synchronicity. Another way to put that is luck. That's like the universe talking to you. But it talking is talking and hearing are not necessarily the same thing. The universe could be talking
Or
to me.
happen at the same time.
Yes. The universe could be talking to me, but I'm not present enough or focused enough or aware enough to hear what's going on. So
Yep.
I can't have that conversation back. I can't get that present that was given to me. I can't accept the luck that was there in front of me. So being aware enough to experience the luck, to have that happen to you, and then for that to continue happening to you is kind of interesting to me. And the other thing I think that piggybacks on that is something I can tell from how you're talking about this entire experience is how humble you are throughout this entirety, right? It's not that you are high and mighty about all of the wonderful things that you've accomplished, but you understand that like everybody, we're just normal people. We have good things, we have bad things, we have things that we do that are excellent, we have things that we do that are not so excellent, failures or whatever. And sometimes we have to go through those failures and experience those failures in order for the high moments to happen. And sometimes without those failures, without those low points, the high points are meaningless because we don't know anything different than that continual high.
Yep.
So with those kind of things, I think
there's a question coming, right?
Yeah,
because I could jump in, but I think there's a question coming.
I think those things are linked: the luck and the humbleness, the synchronicities. If you had to formulate that into a thought, into words, how do you show up present enough to take hold of the luck, those synchronicities that happen, and how can you stay grounded despite all of the things that you've accomplished to remain humble enough to see those new experiences as lucky? That's a tough question, I know.
It's a really good question. Let me give you my personal answer, and then let me tell you a really interesting anecdote from when I was coming up and I saw someone, my boss, who was the president of Paramount, do something with me that was a very interesting and revealing sort of moment, right? So in as much as I can look at my life and go, oh man, the fact that USC made me this offer to go to Los Angeles, and I happen to know engineering, and my friends were on cinema TV, and suddenly computers started doing, and I got invited, like, there are a lot of pieces of luck, like you said. And it's true. When the opportunity walks through the door, you have to be ready for it. I also understand there are probably other things that are not in my story. In this hour that you and I are going to talk, there are probably other things in my story I just missed because I wasn't ready for them. Like there was a pile of gold behind that door, but when you were 24, you didn't know that, right? So we're not going to talk about those because I don't know what they are. But I recognize the ones that I could, identify at the time. They're great. Oh, an ex-girlfriend of mine is actually still a very close friend. She was director of marketing for YogaWorks. When we were dating, gave me a class card and a mat. Hey, try yoga. Like a good boyfriend, I did 10 classes, whatever. The next morning after that was over, did not wake up going, I can't wait to go. And I was like, I've been a good boyfriend. I tried it. Not for me. Like 2 years later, I was in India with my family, randomly bumped into a guy in a forest standing there who is going to lead a yoga practice. And I kind of looked around like, for whom? We're in the middle of a forest, dude, And he was just, no irony. He was just, this afternoon, anyone who comes by. I went by. I did yoga in a forest on the grass. At the end of that, I really wanted to call Alice and be like, man, I was not ready 2 years ago. I didn't know the gift you were trying to give me. But the clarity I feel now, I think, is what I just wasn't ready for. So I recognize there's some things like that in life. Now, let me tell you a funny anecdote. One of the things around this humility, because yes, being a senior executive at a studio, there are maybe 30 jobs in the world that have that access. And it's fun because it's film. You can get anyone on the phone. You can call the vice president of the United States. And if he thinks you're going to make a movie about him, you will end up talking to him. It's a bizarre job. You get all this access and people think it's super glamorous to go to premieres. Let me break it to you. Premieres are work events. You're there with all the people you work with. It's like a convention if you worked in like paper sales, right? But it looks great from the outside because that's publicity for the film, right? But in reality, when you're there, those fabulous conversations with Brad Pitt or Brad going like, how's my hair? Did I get the offer on the next movie? You know, where's the babysitter kind of stuff? It's not like that glamorous, right? So Tom, who is my boss, when I came up in that, I said, I'm going to go work for the president of Paramount. I want to be the first assistant because I want to understand exactly how that job works, right? So I did this. And one day, when you're an assistant, I was the first assistant of many. So you're on all the calls with him, right? Because you're taking notes, making sure scripts go out, actors get their, whatever, right? So there was one call that was absolutely horrid, right? A guy who later had this character Ari Gold modeled on him. Like, it's just venomous about this particular movie that he really wanted his client. He thought he was going to lose his client if this director did not get to direct this movie. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. Tom had said no. So after this call with this guy, had said horrible stuff, like horrible, horrible things you wouldn't say to like your worst enemy. Tom came out of his office to my desk. I had the front desk in his outer waiting area. And he looked at me and said, were you on that call? I said, I guess I was. I didn't know where he was going with this. He's like, do you understand that you're not the chair? And I was like, what do you mean exactly? He's like, I'm president of the studio in there. Ari was talking to the chair. The things he said, they're not about me, Tom. I'll be in that chair for maybe 2 years, 3 years. Everyone gets fired in this business. It's just turnover. You have a couple of hits. As soon as you don't have a hit, you get fired. You go to the next studio. He's like, Ari was screaming at the chair. Someday you're going to be in that chair. I want you to remember this. When people do that to you, they're not actually saying it to you. They're saying it to the chair. And in a year or two, someone else will be in that chair. And I was like, that is a great way to frame that. And that definitely served me through my film career.
So
humility.
Yeah. Okay. So that story, I don't know if you know who Zig Ziglar is. He does a story about who kicked your cat. And essentially, it can be summed up the same kind of way. You know, somebody kicks somebody's cat, and it goes down and down and down. But that person's yelling just because something else happened to them. They're not necessarily mad at you or that thing that you did or whatever, but they have so much other stuff going on in their life, so much other pressures or things, time constraints or whatever it is that they're under. That yelling happened, and it was directed by you, but not necessarily to you or at you. It's just based on whatever else was going on at their time. Yeah. Yeah, so and it's really interesting you talk about that too, because last week I run a martial arts school. I've been a martial artist since age 11. That's my thing. My front desk person had a phone call with somebody who was not very happy on the phone, not because of something we did, but just it was just the instances that were going on outside of the in their life, but this lady on the phone was taking it out on the person at the front desk, and I had to have the who kicked the cat conversation with her, which was again interesting that we're talking about that here again today. So another part that I want to ask about is, how often do you visualize where you're going to be going in the future? So one thing that I got from that kind of story that you talked about there in the beginning is maybe a sense that you are visualizing or kind of thinking ahead of the different areas that you want to end up in. And I think that visualization is wildly important. And I think that, well, the same way that you or your spouse can wake up and be mad at each other because of something that version of you did in their dream, it carries over into reality. I think the visualization can have that type of impact, where if we can visualize something for success for us later on, or even lack of success, failure, we will put things into place in order for that thing to happen. So we have to be careful about how we do that, because it could be for better or for worse. But I get a sense from the story that you told that you have maybe not a visualization practice, but you visualize or at least are looking down the road to where you want to head. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Chris, I will tell you this. What you said about 60 seconds ago, I very much agree with. And the way in which I've always framed it in my mind is each of us is starring in a movie called ourselves. And in my movie, you are a supporting player. In your movie, I'm a supporting player. And when you interact with people, you have to remember that. You go, I'm not the star of their movie. Like, they're in a movie where there was a day before they walked through my door, and there's a day after they leave my life. They're living their own movie, and someone's watching that movie. So that's helped me to remember, hey, man, everyone's starring in a movie called themselves. Now, the thing to bring up, I actually disagree with. And I'll tell you this.
Oh.
What you're saying is absolutely true. However, in my personal experience, I have not seen that the thing that I'm focused on happening next is the thing that happens. It's usually I'm focused on this, some other weird, cool thing drops in my lap, and it's like, oh, we're going to go that way.
Okay.
So we are talking about whether it is the law of attraction, whether it is a secret, whether it is synchronous. Like there's so many people who have said there's this thing about visualizing and like manifesting your vision, right? In my personal life, I have not had that happen. It is usually, if you'd asked me a year ago, would I be here today? I never would have predicted this because I didn't see this happening. And I don't know what it is. It's maybe that weird Forrest Gumpy kind of thing.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's talk a bit about Sukha.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot in the name. The sense that I get is that Sukha was inspired by somebody's experience in Bali, and that moment kind of helped to shape the vision of where the app was going to go. So can you talk a little bit about the name and that experience in Bali?
Oh, I'll say I love the story of how he named this because it ties together things that are very dear to me. And I do think that when you look at things that are created, the DNA of the creators stays with them long after the creators may have died or moved on or whatever, right? The DNA of Snapchat will always go back to, you know, Bobby and Reggie and Evan when they were doing that stuff at Stanford, whatever it may be. You know, the DNA of Twitter, of, you know, Facebook goes back to Face Mash. Like it's all kind of baked in. So I'm very happy to talk about this. And I'll tell you, I mentioned to you that I moved to New York after the failure of one of my startups. And that is where I met Laura in yoga. I married the girl to my left in yoga class, right? So when we got married a couple years ago, we had a working version of this app, which is simply a website. You just open the website. There's nothing much, you know, there's no download. There's no crazy stuff you need to do. And we had a working title. And so we went off on our honeymoon, which when you do yoga, Bali, as you mentioned, is a great place to go and do some yoga, hang out at yoga barn, you know, bump into people you've done yoga with over the years, because it's just random who comes through those doors, right? So I said to Laura, you know, I love in this period of time, no one's going to bug me. Maybe the universe speaks to me and gives me a great name. The way like Amazon was a great name. Nike's a great name. They're not like bookseller for, you know? And she's like, I hope that works out for you. So the first day I said, maybe it'll seed my unconscious if I speak to a couple of our members and just ask them like, why do you use this? What do you love? You know, do you love the focus music? Do you love the timers? Do you love the smart assistant that helps you break down your day? Like, what do you love? So she's like, okay, cool. You know, I'll give you an hour or two. I'm gonna go to the pool and I'll see you at dinner. So I spoke to 3 people. I dropped in the group chat who has a moment to talk. Very standard conversation. Hey, Chris, I asked for 10 minutes. Can you tell me like, what do you love about this? I just want to have some ideas in my head, right? The third guy, I was going to the wrap up and he's still a member. I've seen him in there recently. And I was like, thank you so much for your time. It's 8 minutes. I promised we'd be done in 10. So I just want to say goodbye and really appreciate you. And he said, Steven, you asked me the wrong questions. And I was like, okay, what was the right question? He said, you should have asked me, why do I pay you? I was like, dude, we charge like 30 cents a day and it's free for 7 days. Like you can try it. If you don't like it, no credit card, you're out. So I was like, okay, so why do you pay me? And he said, I find that at 3 o'clock, I can be playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4. Or at 6 o'clock, I can be down myself and be like, where the hell did the day go? And the difference is, did I go to your website in the morning and help it just keep me on track in the morning? He said, so I pay you because my kids aren't going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, that's amazing. And thank you for making me ask that question of you. Thank you. Told this to Laura at dinner. I was like, this dude is more articulate than I am about what I'm doing. And she was like, yeah, that's really good. So we're going to sleep, brushing our teeth that night. And Laura looks at me. She goes, remember you wanted the universe to talk to you this week? It talked to you on day 1. That guy handed you this idea. In yoga, we hear these terms about, you know, prana and life force and dharma and karma and all these like concepts. He described you as Sukha, where he just feels like happy. He feels in control of what he's doing. He's like in his lane, doing the thing he's good at doing. And he can do it with ease. And she said, there's your name. And I bought the website. Sukha means like happiness. I bought the happiness company. So I bought the Sukha domain that night from bed in Bali. It was available because God knows how many people use the word Sukha. But there you go. That was it. And I love it. And it's weird. People ask me all sorts of crazy stuff. I know it's a homonym for a Slavic word that means something very naughty, but anyone who speaks a Russian or Eastern European language, they can snicker as they go, Sukha, the Sukha company. That's so crazy. But you know what? I think you know where our heart's at.
Okay, so that story is interesting to me only because we were just talking about visualization, synchronicities, and things.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't believe in those, but before you went to that,
I
you
haven't seen it
asked.
work in my life, but I believe in it. I think it's a thing. I just haven't seen it work for me.
Well, I'll give you a instance that from what you just shared, that it did.
Yeah.
You asked the universe to speak to you to help you come up with something for the app,
True.
and it did.
Okay. You won that round. You were correct. That is, I was not thinking of it that way, but you were right about that. I'll have to amend my thinking a little bit. It never works for me, except this one time. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Well,
Thank you.
If it could work then, or if it has worked then,
Yeah.
perhaps it's worked other times, but maybe not through that lens.
I really wish that Chris would bring me a pizza now.
I'll work on that.
I'm going to the front door. I'll be right back.
So, all right. Sukha is for flow. It's for productivity. Yeah. Like, why would somebody sign up for? What does it do? Like, what are the features of this?
I appreciate you saying that. Let me skip the features and let me cut to, I have problems that I wanted to solve. If anyone out there, and this is me being in like sales mode for what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing, which is if anyone out there resonates with these sentences, then listen, okay? If you've ever felt at the end of the day, man, I've been busy all day, but what did I get done? Like, hey, how is that possible? I could be continuously busy and I don't feel like I did anything, right? Or you look up at 6 o'clock and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to get up early tomorrow and try and finish the stuff from today before I start tomorrow on tomorrow's work, right? And you know, they're just dominoes. After you've done that, you know that tomorrow night you'll have the same conversation about Wednesday morning, you have the same conversation, you know, about Friday morning, whatever. And I was just sick of that. I was sick of being down on myself. It felt like a perpetuating cycle, me being like, God, I suck. How is it I can't do this? And yet every now and then I'd have that moment of like, whoa, that was really, what did I do differently today? And I'll give you a concrete example. I was going here from Austin, which you know was where I live, to San Francisco to meet with my team. And I had to do some designs to illustrate like a feature. I got on the flight took off and landed. And I was like, there has to be like an engine failure or something. Like we're in Dallas. Like we took off and we landed. Something bad is going on. They're not going to tell us what it is. We were in San Francisco. Like 3 hours, I think, and change had gone by in the air. And I had no concept of drink carts going by, the person next to me nothing. I had no idea, but my designs were done. And I suddenly felt this relief of like, oh, when I got off the plane, I don't have to run to the hotel to try to grab some food in the lobby and finish the designs. They're done. I can do whatever I want tonight. I can go to sleep early. I can go to that lobster place, you know, whatever I want to do, right? That I realized later was a flow state. And it just happened to be that some of the things were true on that plane because there was no Wi-Fi. So there was no Slack pinging me. There are no emails to read. A lot of these distractions were not available. I did have music, right? And when I, learned about this, it's like, oh man, you were in a flow state. And maybe it was like 2 hours and change long, but it's that thing where you just go, if I could bottle this and do this frequently, my day would change. So if anything in there sort of like resonates with someone driving right now and listening, or at home or at the gym, whatever you're doing, what I did was, read the books by the smart people. These are not new problems. We've been trying to work and work well. We've been trying to manage and get in control of our lives for eons. So yes, smart people have written about this, not just Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who named flow state, but Cal Newport's work on deep work and shallow work, and like how to treat things seriously if you want a serious result. Neer's work on triggers, internal and external triggers, and how you can trick yourself into being more focused, right? James Clear, like there's so many smart people written this. So you read those books, there's a lot of commonality. And I just thought, what if we had a website that when you went to the website had a little assistant that just said, hey, Chris, what do you need to get done today? And you're like, oh man, I need to do this thing, return my emails, write my TPS reports, blah, blah, blah. It sort of organized it, prioritized it for you. time boxed it. Like, hey man, it seems like in your past, your TPS reports each week take out 30 minutes. Why don't I just time box it 30 minutes? Because it's weird the way when you time box, you get it done. It's just, the mental tricks.
Is that Parkinson's law?
Yeah.
Work fills
Yes.
to expand the time that's
Available
allotted for it.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know this stuff. So one thing I found was helpful because I do have ADD and I do get sometimes paralyzed by seeing long task lists is as soon as I start, my assistant hides the whole list except the top 3 things. And then it suddenly becomes way more achievable. It's like, oh yeah, I get my TPS report, return those emails, and I got to update, my expense report. I can totally knock those out today in whatever time. Music plays. There's a friendly group chat if you want to post what you're working on, talk to other designers or other entrepreneurs or whatever. It's just like it's a community kind of feel. It was actually something I wasn't sure would work. There was a woman in my in the app where I was having this conversation. I said, you know what? As the founder, I talk to all these people in almost like a hub and spoke way where I know all of you, or not, I know a lot of you, but none of you really have a sense that there are other people out there using it. What do you think? Would it be distracting if people could talk to each other and sort of like share what they're working on and that, or would it be actually a cool thing? And she goes, listen, I can go to the Nike store. I can buy a pair of shoes. Like they'll tell me a left shoe and a right shoe. I can go run. It works. There are 100 million people that are in the Nike Run Club because when you run with other people, you run further and you run faster, you're more accountable. And like the days you think you suck, your friends come by and they're like, get out of bed, let's do this. And the days where you have to support someone like that, it also feels really good to be like, come on, Chris, let's do this. You got me last week. I got you this week. And she was like, I think you should do it. And it's become one of my favorite things in the morning is just to go in there and see who's chatting and who's talking about what they got done. And that's for me, the backbone of my day now is I wake up in the morning and I, like Nir would say, I have a trigger of like, I want to see what people are chatting about in there. I want to dump my brain into my assistant and my assistant go, okay, here are the 3 things, hit play. Let's start. Here's the music. I blocked your Slack. I blocked your email. Let's do this, buddy.
Okay. So I got some questions there.
Yeah.
Is AI taking some of the workload of hearing what you have to say, like what you have on the list for today,
Totally.
and putting that in and then prioritizing those? Yeah. Okay.
100%. 100%. And people ask me a lot about AI because there's so many layoffs. There's so much like AI, agentic AI is taking over, right? And LLMs, even if they're applied to like coding and stuff. And the metaphor I always use is like, if you went to Usain Bolt and you're like, hey, dude, we have a robot that runs faster. So how about you just sit this one out and the robot will run? Right? It would suck for the spectators. It would suck for Usain Bolt. Sure. But if you were like, hey, man, with AI, we actually modeled your foot bones better. And like, we have a shoe, you might shave half a second off your time. You want to try it? Hell yeah, you'd be in on that. The spectators would love it. Like, there are applications where you go, let me magnify your effort as opposed to, did I replace you? Did I lay you off?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, there's a video or a picture or whatever. It says, I want AI to do my laundry, cooking, and dishes so that I can do writing, not the other way around.
Yeah, yes. Exactly right. Yeah. So yes, you were correct in your analysis. We use an LLM inside here to say, how can we magnify your efforts? How can I take care of the tedious stuff of organizing your tasks, prioritizing stuff, managing your stuff, helping you? Hey man, in the afternoons, Chris, you work better when you listen to this playlist that's called Sonic Caffeine. But in the mornings, you work better to ambient atmosphere. Well, because I've been tracking your data.
So that comes to the next question: is music. Is it all like there's no vocals or whatever in the music? Is it all just kind of like background ambient noise type stuff?
Yes. Happily, I have a bunch of friends who are film composers with time on their hands, right? And there's enough research around the middle of the road. This is what flow music should be. It seems like most people, 60 to 90 beats per minute, ambient, like you said, non-vocal, melodic sort of things, certain key signatures, things like that. We all have the friend that listens to gangster rap or, death metal, whatever. And if that works for them, that's awesome. And I have to admit, there are moments when I listen to, California Love, More Money, More Problems, because that was like when I was a kid. So it brings me to a happy place. There are moments I don't listen to flow music. I'm like, This sounds like we're going to be in Tupac land or whatever, right? So you do it. And then the other weird thing is a number of people in the community were like, oh, actually, you know what? I miss the sound of going to a coffee shop. Like I have a kid now. I can't go right in a coffee shop, but I love that. We stood up a playlist that's just a couple hours of an Vienna, Austria coffee shop, and you just hear like people making espressos and stuff. And some people love. If you look at our metrics,
Sure.
like that, and the Himalayan rain. One of our buddies is a sound engineer. He's like, I was in Kathmandu and it rained, and I just recorded it because I was like, I had my recording equipment. People listen to that like crazy, and it's the sound of rain. So we have a
Sure.
number of these naturescapes or soundscapes of streams and surf and birds by a lake that if you don't want to listen to music,
What about
it's like fun.
like binaural beats, where it's like
Yeah, we have
sound that's
binaural.
at a certain frequencies?
Totally. Have you experimented with that?
A
Is
little bit.
binaural your jam?
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit.
How do you feel? Like what kind of hertz?
I
What
was like the
brain waves you try to stimulate?
42 to 45 or something, whatever.
Okay.
It might
Yeah.
be like a placebo type effect. I've done it a little
Don't
bit.
know.
To be honest, when I get into a flow state, I like to listen to like jazz. So like Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, those people. That's
How
my go-to.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazz is a flow state for musicians.
Yeah.
A great jazz, improvisational jazz is that, hey man, we're just in the flow. I'm not thinking. It's just all like this moment. That's really cool. I will tell you, I have a similar view of binaural beats. Done a bunch of research on it. I've written blog posts on it. Some people, especially in our SF community, a lot of like entrepreneurs and hustlers, swear by them. They've got the cans like you've got, and they're just like super into it. I've tried it, but I'm not sure if it's a placebo effect where I'm expecting it to like do something. I don't know. But if it works,
Yeah,
who cares
placebo
why?
or otherwise. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. So the next thing is timers. Is it like a Pomodoro type of setup where you worked for X amount of time and you have something you do in as a
Yeah,
reprieve?
you've done Pomodoros, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that 25 and 5 is the rhythm for you?
For some things, yes. But if I'm doing multiple rounds of it, I will incrementally expand that work time. But I'll keep the rest time the same. So I'll go from 25 to maybe 30 up to maybe 45 at most. But I still do that 5 minute of a reprieve in between.
So interesting. Okay, this is one again where I learned by having a community that tells you what they want, right? So the pomodoro, for anyone who's not following this, there's an Italian who had this tomato like kitchen timer, and he came up with this idea of cycling where you do 25 minutes work, 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and then eventually take a longer break and stuff, right? So because Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato, it's called the Pomodoro technique. So that's what we're talking about. And in our case, Pomodoro is pretty popular, especially with people who are into productivity, right? So we did a Pomodoro timer, straight up. Hey man, hit play. It does 25, gives you 5 minute break. One thing I learned was some people, including myself, don't seem like 25 is the right rhythm for their thinking. Like for me, I do 55 and 5 because I find at 25 or 30 minutes, I'm usually just cresting, like in the middle of a good thought. So I played with it until I got there. So we allow you to edit it. You can set a new default. Like in settings, you can say, hey man, I just want 55 and 5s, which is mine, right? Or you can do 25 and 5. And then while it's going, you can click the timer and just type in a new time. Like, hey man, I know it says there are 10 minutes left. I need like 30.
Sure.
Type in 30M and it just counts down from 30 then. For that very reason, just like we don't want to be punitive. We want it to be beautiful and support you.
I think studies suggest that like 90 is the max amount of focus time any one person can do in one sitting before their brain starts to wander. So 90, from what I understand anyway, is like the max.
There's a good Huberman lab about brain glucose and sort of like your brain fuel, and it does get depleted, like you said, between 90 and 120 minutes. You hit that point of just like, I don't know what I'm thinking about, and maybe you've done amazing work. In those 90 minutes, you've done 3 hours of work, but you do hit that like need to recharge.
Yeah.
And by the way, like a lot of things, and Nir would be proud of this, we do gamify your work. As you work, you get points for every minute that you don't open Facebook, that you don't pick up your phone. You can, if your phone distracts you, which it does me, when I hit a moment of like, I don't know what to do, I'll pick up my phone. It's like that quick dopamine hit. So we just came up with a way where you have a QR code, you can shoot it with your phone, put your phone down. And if you touch your phone, your smart assistant says, hey, Chris, you need to be on your phone, right? Are you being intentional? Is that what you want, right? And you can choose if you want to be on your phone or not. So we gamified it so that you get points for doing things that are good, finishing your tasks within your boundaries, like, respecting your time box. And you lose points for, going on CNN and doom scrolling, in the middle of a work session. So the break, we give you a couple options to earn points because we want you to go. Like if you go for a walk, you get like 15 points. Hey man, I went for a 5-10 minute walk. I drank some water. I stretched. Like that's a big one for me, especially I think coming from yoga, is like the amount of clarity I get, even if I take 3 to 5 minutes and I just do some desk stretches, which sounds stupid, but it actually helps me. So we dropped it in there. You have like 4 options. You can, do a breathing exercise. You can walk, you can get water, you can, whatever. Anyway, so all that to say, I would like to believe that the etymology of sukha is su means good and ka means place. And that is what we wanted to create, was a beautiful place during the day where you could be with other people who are productivity minded, doing some with their lives. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of designers, founders, UX, UI kind of people, as well as engineers, and like get stuff done and feel good and be like 3:00. Oh, this feels great. As opposed to 6:00 where I would be, which is like, man, I suck. I'll get up early tomorrow, or I'll come back after dinner and keep working. And I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. And having that kind of gamification that's in there too, that keeps them coming back to it. They want to get their score up. And I guess, okay, so then the next piece is the community. How did you foster a community like the one that you have? Because I think that's very unique. And we talked about that a little bit too, that it's much different than what you see on Twitter or X or whatever it is. How did you foster that into such a positive type of atmosphere?
And I think the kind of person who signs up for what we're doing, they self-select. The people we have are people who are like, their main job is they're building something, or their side hustle is they're building the thing that hopefully becomes the main job. So they're here to do something powerful. And like, you can post in there, hey man, I just finished my blog post in an hour and 15 minutes. People will ask you like, hey Chris, post a link to it. Let's all read your blog post. It's just that feeling that's very different than some platforms where it feels combative. And I think it's just the nature of who signs up for this. You're not going to find clickbait here. There's no like girl in a bikini selling you an energy drink. This is not who we are.
Sure.
You actually had an interesting episode with Ken talking about the ARC method, where you talked about, Ken brought up this idea of, when did we believe that I'm killing myself all day and all night today is the only way to be an entrepreneur, right? And how do you turn that around to the point where you say, actually, work is measured by the impact of what I did today, not how many hours I spent, not where I did it, but it's like the impact. And if you're part of a team, like I always joke about this, I would rather someone came into our staff meeting and said something where everyone went, whoa, Chris, you should do that. Where did you come up with that? Oh, 15 minutes. I was at the beach yesterday. And it's like, great. As opposed to like, you mean you didn't sleep under your desk with Elon Musk and like drink 18 Red Bulls to try and stay awake to do that? You actually just did it in 15 minutes. What's worthless? No, dude, it changed the trajectory of our company. Congratulations for finding your way of doing that in 15 minutes. That should be the reward, not the badge of honor of sleeping under your desk.
Yes. Yeah. And oftentimes we're in that kind of hustle culture where everybody thinks that that's what you have to do in order to make something. And it's not at all that. It's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort, where if you can find that 20% and drill that down and actually make that useful, then that 20% will go far and away and give you the 80% of the results that you're looking for.
I love that all the principles, all the names.
All right. So with your app, do you have, like, looking ahead, what does the future look like? Do you have any creative ideas in the pipeline ready to go?
Yes. Something we're doing right now is making an integrated suite that helps you stay off other websites. Like I mentioned with the phone, where it's like you can shoot the phone and in 5 seconds, your phone's connected. Your assistant can be like, hey, Chris, you're in the middle of a work session. Do you really need to be on your phone, right? The exact same effect with websites, with, other things that distract you. And what I really love is what we have right now is to grow that in such a way that it becomes a part of everyone's morning. where they just say, oh, you know what? The first thing I want to do is jump in there, like that crazy guy, Chris, see if he posted a new episode of his thing. Oh, there's that girl I was talking to in New York who's the designer. You know, maybe I'll work with her. Let me see if her ship data her portfolio and thing. And you get down to work. You hit play, and it's like fresh music, really cool quotes. You know, just like make it the most beautiful place. Make it Sukha.
So, all right. So as you're talking about the phone connection there,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of focus modes. I have like 6 or 7 different focus modes that all do different
Wow.
things, and they change the apps that are, like I have my phone and iPad are like my main devices. My each focus mode changes. I have one. Okay, so I have one screen. Like I don't
Mhm.
swipe through all the different apps. I have one screen that has all the apps on it, and depending on what focus mode I'm in, has different apps on the screen. The background
Mhm.
color changes. It like if I'm in my a regular focus mode, which is like where um, standard mode is, my social media type of apps are blocked. I can't go to social media unless I go to an entertainment focus mode. And all of I have a work focus mode. There's a podcast focus mode.
Yep.
Podcast focus mode. Quite literally, nobody can email me, text me, or like even my wife. Nobody could contact me right now because I use my phone as the camera. So I don't want
There you go.
a phone call coming through and taking that off. So I have all those different focus modes. Have you thought about adding a way or like an app, I guess, that would be like a focus mode? Boom, they click into it when they're in the Sukha mode or Sukha app or website that would just do that for them.
For the phone or for your desktop experience?
Yes. Yeah, both, I guess.
Okay, so right now the way it works is when you start your session, we offer you a QR code. It comes up for like 15 seconds. You can open your camera on your phone, tap it. It opens a website on your phone. You put your phone down, right? Now, your smart assistant in our website knows if you background that website. So if you go off that website on your phone and open WhatsApp, opens it, it tells your smart assistant, and that's when your smart assistant talks to you and says, hey, Chris, I see you're on your phone. I just make sure it's an intentional thing. Because you can say, oh my God, it's my son calling at school. I need, yes, this is intentional. Or you'd be like, no, you know what? I just hit something that was hard and my little reptile brain went to dopamine. So I decided to open TikTok, and then you get to choose. It's not punitive. It doesn't lock things. It just goes, who do you want to be?
I see.
And we do the exact same thing with the desktop. This is the thing that I'm really excited about, which I was testing right before our podcast today, which is you can take a stock list of websites we give you. Hey, man, you're probably not working when you're on Facebook, when you're on Instagram, when you're on some of these things, right? You can add or subtract from it. Like you could say, oh, you know what? I'm a social media manager. Actually, I need to be on Twitter today. Don't bug me if I go on Twitter. It's me working for my clients, right? Totally fair. You can toggle things off. And you can add things like, oh, the thing that gets me is I go on Amazon and I surf Amazon for things to buy during Prime Week or whatever it is, right? You can add that, type it in Amazon.com, man, please watch this for me. And if one of those websites comes up, you'll get a little note from your smart assistant saying, hey, Chris, it looks like Facebook might be distracting you. And you have the option with the little pop-up to say, yep, I'm going to get off it. You got it. Or say, actually, don't bug me in this session. I do need to be on Facebook. I'm updating my profile photo for my business page or something. You know what I mean? So then in the rest of that session, you're clear to use Facebook. It's like you've said, this is intentional. Don't bother me and we won't bother you. So that's kind of what we're doing. And a lot of that is because we'll launch something we build together with our audience and say, hey, this is out there. Test it. What do you think? And people would be like, actually, I need a button where it's like, I need to be in Twitter for this session. It's a great idea to build that.
That seems like an interesting a way that like schools, like middle schools, high schools, could do something like that for when the kids are taking tests or they're online or doing whatever.
Yeah. Have you seen Cluely?
Mm-mm.
It is interesting how boldly they're marketing Cluely as like an LLM for cheating. They're just like, here's the deal, man. Like we will feed you answers. Let us know how you need. If you're going to have an earbud, we'll just, if you're a professor or your teacher is monitoring what's on your computer, we can do it through your phone. And I think they're also co-marketing a pen. And this one is just like, wow, because some schools have gone back to written tests. Have you seen this, right? For the very reason it's hard to copy and paste your LLM stuff if you're writing it. So they have pens now that have a little optical reader in them. So you can pass the pen over the question. It scans it, does OCR, lets the LLM know. And then the LLM on the side of the pen has like a little LCD display where you can read what it wants you to write. And I'm like, I'm going to have a son this year. How am I going to explain to him he's competing against people that are basically just an LLM? I'm just a guy who types or writes what the LLM tells me.
Yeah.
That's a crazy one, man.
Well, and the sense that I get too is like in the probably pretty near future, we're going to have contact lenses that'll have the AI technology in there. So during this conversation, I could be having, you know, the like it's listening to it. It's going to have the answers or the questions, whatever I'm supposed to answer. You have that at job interviews. You have that like at some point we're going to, what is the movie Idiocracy? We're going to turn into that type of environment, I think, pretty soon.
It is amazing how prescient that movie was. It was like, let me give you a little burst of the future.
And at the time, we're like, this is nothing. But now here we are. Holy cow, this is coming true.
It is so true. I'm actually not here. I'm windsurfing. This is a generative AI. Like, just I hope you like it.
A lot of the videos that we see on social media are that, and we're almost at the point already where we can't quite tell the difference between what's real and what's generative.
You know what's interesting? You may not have read this book. It's an old Michael Crichton book, but it's called Rising Sun. Does it ring a bell?
I have not.
Okay. So it was made into a movie by Philip Kaufman. The movie was all plot and no thought, right? The movie was, hey, there's a Japanese corporation. There's a murder at the opening of their big building in Los Angeles, and Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes have to solve it. They're the detectives on this, right? And it's not a good movie, period. Don't see it. The book I happened to read before it was made into a movie, and the book was incredibly thoughtful because what Crichton got at, and keep in mind, this is what, the early 80s? I want to say this is maybe mid 80s, somewhere in there. Long time ago. The murder, by the time the detectives get to it, and this is a new high-rise, high-tech building, all the cameras near the murder have had their images doctored. So they have to try and piece together this crime when it's like, oh my God, anything that happens in this building, we have all the recordings, and they go to the recordings and they see the girl who gets killed go into the room, but they don't see the guy because he's been removed, right? And what's interesting is Crichton poses this in the book. I'm going to be very reductive, but it's this interesting. He said, up until this point in history, we could fool all of our senses except sight. Seeing is believing is a phrase that all of us alive right now understand. He said, we're about to enter into a world where there is no sense we can apply to prove something is true. You can show me a photo of my wife having sex with my best friend. I'll be like, oh, you photoshopped it. I don't know. He's like, seeing is believing. This is our last sort of like touchstone or litmus test for truth. How are you going to go into a court of law and do this? And he said, on a deeper level, yeah, maybe it's problematic for us being adults. Like, oh yeah, it's really hard. Everything's Photoshop now. Everything's Gen AI. Yeah, maybe it's hard to prove things. But he said, what is it like to be young right now and grow up in a world where you can't trust anything? How does it change you as a human? And it was a fascinating book around that idea, not in the movie. The movie is like hot cars and wet down streets at night in Los Angeles.
Okay. But what a profound thought, though. Like, what is it going to be like for the kids of today to grow up in that type of environment?
Yeah. Anything they see, they're like, I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what an interesting way to end that. But Steven, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for the
super fun. I hope there were some interesting things in here. We can definitely at some point, if you want to do this again, more tips and tricks. They're not even tied to what I do. You know, the website that I created, just in general things I've seen people do with flow states.
So before we wrap up here, are there any key thoughts or final takeaways you'd like to share with the audience? And what would be the way that if they wanted to learn more about the app or about you, how could they best do that?
Okay, so closing thought is this. I have a very strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is simply, will you get it out or not? There are a lot of forces making sure you don't. Amazing designers, amazing billionaires, amazing engineers, making sure that the easiest thing to do is don't do the thing of which you're capable. They just want to steal your life and sell it to an advertiser, and they keep the money. So I encourage anyone who does have an idea of something they're going to build or do with their life, do it, resist the urge. Don't give your life to someone else to sell. And in terms of anything that I've said that someone wants to pick up on, my email address is very public. It's Steven@thesukha, THESUKHA.co. If there is any reference to Nir or Mihai or Cal or whatever, it doesn't have to be anything I'm working on. But if you're just like, hey man, I was driving and I really wanted to learn more about that thing, email me. I will send you back a short email with a link or whatever's appropriate. It won't be the story of my life in 19 paragraphs because I don't have time for that, nor do you want to read it. But I do get back to all my emails in 24 hours if I'm not sick or traveling. So genuine offer, and I'm happy. It's like, oh, Cal Newport, here's a great blog post you wrote about exactly what you want to know, right? Because smart people have worked on this. And anyone who wants to try Sukha, simply a website, no credit card, sign up in 5 seconds, try it for a week for free. If you love it, pay me $10 a month. If it doesn't work for you, drop me an email. Tell me what didn't work, because you know what? I'll make it better tomorrow morning.
Very good. Well, again, thank you, Steven, for the insights into this. And listeners, if you found if you found this episode helpful or motivational or somehow impactful for you, consider sharing it, subscribing, liking, and leaving us a review. And I want to say, until next time, this is Chris Bean signing off. Stay focused and make every day count.